Okay. Thank you all for being here today. We greatly appreciate your time to talk about going beyond the paycheck and how we can find career options that we want you to have the right paycheck, of course, too, but also that are really fulfilling for you as well. So we're going to how to balance both of those. And sorry about that echo. I just had to turn something off. So please do me a favor, and if you could locate the chat box, that would be fantastic. There's a couple of quick instructions in there, and also we will be putting some information in there as well. I do want to make sure that everyone can hear me and see me or see my slides also. So if you could just give me a quick thumbs up or let me know in the chat box that that's the case, that would be great. So we welcome our Georgia State University alum and any students as well, and also friends of Create Your Career Path, people that have heard about us through my organization as well. And if you have not attended a webinar with me, just by way of very brief introduction, I'm a certified career coach, speaker, and author. I have been coaching and training since 2002. My joke today or lately is, although I'll be 53 this year, I'm still kind of able to cover at least some of the gray hair. Hopefully it stays that way. And I have an undergraduate degree from Vanderbilt University and a master's degree from the University of Illinois. And I'm just going to make sure if you can put in the chat box that you can hear me okay. Always just want to be sure. And let me look at this all. Yes, it looks like you can. Okay, thank you for that. Just wanted to be sure. We have a fantastic team of certified career coaches who provide the one-on-one coaching for our clients. And we also have resume writers as well. So I host programs like this and our boot camps, et cetera. And our coaches in different parts of the country provide the one-on-one career services. And one of the things that we wanted to, or I always like to reference or say at the beginning of our programming, is remember that we are going to provide you with the recording as well as the slides automatically. They'll be sent to your email. So if you could do me a favor today and be present, listening in to our content for today, and pick one action step. Pull something out of our discussion today that makes the most sense for you and your situation and where you are as it relates to defining your dream job. And remember that you can revisit everything later on. So check your email for that after our program today and get out a pen and paper so you can write one thing down. I don't know about you. Oops, went too far. Here's our agenda. But I attend programs like this all the time. And, you know, we're really motivated in the moment. And I get that. And understandably, life can get in the way afterwards. So we really want you to be able to take action and have one specific thing that you will take on for this next week. So today we're going to talk about, in our next 20 or so minutes, 3 steps to help you go beyond the paycheck. We still need to consider the paycheck. So we're not saying that that's not important in any way, shape, or form, but how to really think about and identify what's going to be meaningful and fulfilling for you in your career by looking at and identifying career values, your career values, using and leveraging our ideal career model, which can serve as a really good checklist for you to say, okay, let me brainstorm ideas based on my strengths, my interests, my values, et cetera, but then also narrow them down using that model as a checklist for practical considerations too. And then the action steps that we want you to be taking. And we'll give those to you along the way here as we progress to make sure you have tangible things to walk away from. But as I said earlier, depending on where you are in this journey of defining the right career path for you for the long run, pick whatever makes the most sense for you. And do me a favor and make sure you've located that chat box here so you can see any resources that we post along the way. We don't do questions or polls during these programs because we want to focus on the content in the 30 minutes that we have. So here's the deal. Here's why we're here today. Understandably, the workforce, the economy, the market, just so many changes have happened in the past multiple years with working remotely, now back into the office, et cetera. And if you look at everything that's listed on this slide here too, with the economy or economic changes, everything has evolved and changed so much, I think, dramatically in multiple years, whether it's AI, working remotely, or hybrid, or back in person. People will jump around to different jobs a lot more than they used to. We want you to be careful about doing that too much, but you can kind of get away with it a little bit more if you look at careers are less linear and they're more fluid. It's really important to focus on your skills these days. There was actually a report from LinkedIn this morning talking about skills-based hiring is becoming more of the norm. And as part of this, many professionals have been and continue to rethink what they want from work. And some people want greater meaning. Some people want greater flexibility or sustainability throughout their career and that stability. So it is a common thing to be in this place for yourself of, gosh, what do I want next? It's very normal and you're not alone. That's the first thing that we wanted to kind of reference. The second thing to know as we start to get into our content is that we are also not over here saying like, you're going to get a brand new job and it's going to be perfect every single second of the day. Nothing is perfection. It's, this is just normal and part of life. There's always going to be something that maybe you don't enjoy as much about your job. Part of the work environment, maybe that might not be ideal for you, or a coworker or a boss that you may kind of, have difficulty with or butt heads with. But here's what we find is number one, when we work with our clients, they identify and get into a job that is better than they ever thought it could be. And number two, that what we're going for is that the good stuff about your job or your career for this next phase so far outweighs the things that you may not like quite as much that you can compromise on those things and you barely notice them and it's not a big deal. So we all have to compromise in certain, in a way, shape, or form. But when you're choosing also where you're compromising and being proactive about it, it can make a huge difference. So the good news is that you can find direction, fulfillment, and momentum in your career, even when there's that maybe economic uncertainty or whatever may be going on within your industry. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't move forward on this. It's about moving forward in a smart way and taking your time with it. So one of the things that we would suggest you do first, right out of the box, and then we'll start on our 3 action steps in the next couple of slides, is if you can start a list for yourself and give yourself a few days of working on this. This is not something to do like in an hour and boom, it's done. But a really good first step, if you look at this next slide, is to write down and separate what works for you in your current job or career and what doesn't work for you. Create a list of likes and dislikes. And you can have them in 2 columns on a page, on your computer, whatever it is. But this will help you tangibly, practically start to identify what's really going well with your work and what's not going well, so that you don't try to make changes in areas that you honestly don't need to. And a couple of the things to do here is then to say, okay, what are the themes here in terms of, yes, uncovering values? We'll talk about that in a moment. But also, what are the themes in what you're identifying that, let's just say, for example, you don't like? And what I mean by this is, if a lot of the things that you don't like have to do with the work environment versus the industry or the tasks that you're performing or, the actual job itself, that tells you something. Maybe I actually need to go do the same kind of thing, but at a different place. So that's where those themes can come in. The second thing to do is to clarify for yourself which things are part of the job all the time and they're permanent. So, it's not going to change over time. Or what are the things that are maybe short-term dissatisfaction? And it's like, well, I might feel this way just because of this particular project right now. And then you can use our model to start to frame out your thinking. We'll show you that in a moment, to then start to make your plan and say, okay, these are the 3 things that need to change. What does that mean in terms of my values, my priorities, what other career paths could be a fit for me? And if for some reason, let's say you're like, let me stay put for a little while longer where I am, and then consider like in 3 months, if the changes helped and were good enough, that's okay too. Lots of different people will have different plans depending on your situation. And if you look at the stats on this left-hand side, obviously this is why we're here today, because too many people regret their career choices over time. Please don't feel bad. That's why you're here. I have these regrets as well. It's very common for people. So step number one, to go beyond the paycheck, is to at least start to define what your career values are, that you can start to say, okay, for example, how well is my current career path honoring those values? How well are the tasks I'm performing honoring those values? The people I work with internally and externally. How well is my work environment honoring those values? So lots of different places and areas that values can touch. And a lot of times when we are not totally satisfied with our jobs, or we feel less of a sense of meaning than we would like, that means that some of those values are either not being honored or in some cases being stepped on or smushed. So when you want to go beyond the paycheck, what we want you to do is put salary and practical considerations aside for the beginning when you're starting to look and brainstorm ideas. You can bring those in later on to help you narrow down your ideas. But we want you to start with fulfillment first because it's the most difficult thing to define for yourself. It's easier to identify your strengths and go take a strengths assessment. Values are they're very personal, right? And a little bit more esoteric. The second reason why we like to start with fulfillment is it will help you think outside the box more than you would otherwise with your ideas. Really cover your bases and find things out there or ideas or jobs that you didn't even know existed. And then you can narrow them down based on practical considerations. But we want you to cast a really wide net at the beginning. And it will give you a lot more suggestions for okay, themes and, different kinds of career paths that you haven't maybe considered. And so please know on the right-hand side here, and then we'll keep going, is that it's okay at the beginning to put that salary and compensation and practicality to the side. You're not going to be doing that forever, but come up with that really good list of ideas because you will start to identify paths that could actually be a really great fit for you, or something related or adjacent to that could be a really great fit that is also good for practical considerations as well. So for example, using me for a second, and then I'll move to the model here and we'll talk a little bit more about this, is because I didn't let go of that idea or theme I had of a value, but also a strength and interest in education or educating people in some way. That's how I found out about coaching as a possible career path. I tried teaching kids in elementary school, after school programs. That wasn't a fit. I tried teaching some college classes, or when I was working on my master's degree, that wasn't quite it either. But because I didn't let go of that and I researched other related adjacent ideas, different ways we can educate people, that's how I found out about coaching. So the other reason why we do want people to go beyond the paycheck and consider fulfillment first is also on this right-hand side. Fulfillment impacts all of the pieces of our model and vice versa. So for example, if we are not compensated the way that we want to be or feel we deserve, we're not going to be fulfilled, and vice versa. If you are not leveraging your strengths in a way that you want to, or all of your strengths, you're not going to be fulfilled. And the other reason why I say this is because values can be present not just in the fulfillment box, but they can be present in these different areas. So for example, some of your personality traits actually might be some of your values, and some of your strengths might be your values as well. And your values influence the type of work environment that's best for you. So we want to look at values first because they can bleed into these other areas and influence them, and it gives us clarity there. And obviously too, we want people in an ideal world, if this is important to them, that they have a sense of meaning, or have a sense of meaning, success, satisfaction in their work, because we spend a lot of time at work and you want to get something out of it aside from just the paycheck. Now let's take a look a little bit deeper into what career values mean and what the deal is there. So Fulfillment, the way to start to define fulfillment and what it means for you is to identify what your top 5 career values are. And by the way, we're only usually looking with people at 5 values. Getting more than that can get a little bit, confusing and muddy the waters. So stick with 5, but also know too that the order of priority with those values can make a big difference in how you live your life and the types of jobs that you want to. So when you start to identify them, work with your coach or a friend or a mentor. This is what we do with our clients all the time, to define those in terms of 1 to 5. Now, the deal with values, looking at this slide, is they're your guideposts to fulfillment. When you're living your life according to your values or in alignment with them, and also your career path aligns with them, at least to a certain extent, you're going to be fulfilled. They're not ethics or morals per se, but you can have ethics or morals on your list of values. But think of them as a deeper, like, these are really meaningful for me. And when I honor my values, or I take action or do things aligned with them, whether it's work or personal, you feel a sense of fulfillment. You get that like instinct that you're in the flow, etc. Now, when we look at the right-hand side here, we want to align your career decisions and your career path more with your values. This is the first big step that you want to take. And this will also help you brainstorm career ideas, but also help you kind of fill out that model. And by the way, your values are already present in your decision-making day to day, at least to a certain extent. The deal is we're usually subconsciously making decisions in accordance with or aligned with our values already, but sometimes we don't, and we, trip up and, we choose something or a career path that's actually not aligned with our values without realizing it. So the goal here is that you're bringing those values into your conscious mind so that you can be more intentional about your choices with your career path and otherwise in alignment with them. One of the ways, if you look at this next slide, that you can start to define or identify your values is go ahead and take 5 minutes tonight and dig underneath your passions, your dreams, your interests. They could be childhood dreams. They could be the hobbies that you pursue right now, and starting to identify what are the themes between those. And I'll use this mermaid example here on the slide and explain this. So as an adult, when I was starting to identify what some of my career values were, I looked at the books that I read, the TV shows I was drawn to, the topics I usually talked about with friends and family. And it was usually kind of like psychology and, meaning and the types of things that we're talking about. But also, like, my hobbies aligned with some of my values too. And then when I went way back and thought about my childhood dream, I grew up in Florida. We used to go to Weeki Wachee. I don't know if it's still around, but I do think it is. Someone told me the other day. I wanted to be a mermaid. I was like, oh my gosh, that's the coolest thing. And when I grew up, I realized, okay, that might not be the most practical, career path for me. It didn't align with a lot of other things. Okay, fine. But even in that childhood dream, some of my values were present of educating people by entertaining them in some way, because that's what these mermaids are doing, is educating you about the ocean, etc. So there was that education piece, but also by doing it in an engaging way, which is part of why I love hosting webinars like this. The other value that was present even then and is still present today is a value of risk for me, which enables me to be okay with running my business and kind of tolerate that risk, if you will. But the activities I perform even today and in that childhood dream, it did seem kind of risky. I mean, yes, they have the air hose, but So think about these things and the things you enjoy today. And even if, let's say, you've got a passion or an interest in something like photography, but that's not a viable career path for you, think about and ask yourself the question, what is it about that is appealing to me? Because that's going to start to give you some clues to your values. Now, second slide here related to how you can define some of your values. You can journal about, how do you define success? What does it mean to you? Is it about the paycheck, but is it about these other things? I want to feel like I'm impacting people. Well, in what way? Financially, with their health, with their mental health, with something else. You can also dig underneath your dreams, passions, interests, like we said, and identify those common themes between things that where you lose track of time. You can do a vision board about your ideal day at work or journal about this and what qualities would it have. When you start to see what those qualities are, those could be some of your values. We also walk through with all of our clients a peak experience exercise where we have them think about a peak experience in their life and also in their career. And they discuss it with us and we help them start to pull out their career values from that. Okay. So I want you to ask yourself and just write down if you feel like values is one of the things you need to start working on. And if you feel like you're not clear here, let's write that down as one of your action steps. Now, just as a quick clue here, we help our clients determine the difference for them between what are their personal values that they're okay honoring in their personal life and what are their career values that they need to honor in their career. Career values, quick hint, tend to be the ones that are higher priority on your list. And personal values are ones that you're like, I don't have to honor that every single day, like all the time in my work. I'm okay with honoring that outside of work. Okay. One example for me is my value of health and wellness. I honor that more so in my personal life, buying, the healthy food, cleaning products, all that other good stuff. It's not like for me, I wanted to go work in sustainability, although I love that and I think it's fantastic. The value of educating people related to what's important to them is higher for me. Just really quickly, quick reminder, especially if you have not attended a webinar with us before, we always do or are happy to offer a consultation about our services so you can learn a little bit more if working with us is the right thing for you. You can use the QR code to sign up for that. And if you don't have your phone or you're on your phone, I just put this in the chat box as well. We do offer a discount for Georgia State alum, but also people who are live here today on our call. The code is alum10, and I also put that in the chat box as well. It gives you 10% off any of our products or services on our website. Now, when you're thinking about your values, you want to also start to think about which values are core values for me, like this is what I want to be doing task-wise in my day-to-day, whether it's educating people, it's planning events, it's analyzing data, whatever it is. And then there will be some values that you will notice as you start to identify them that need to be present in your work environment. And what that means is that you could be in, like you might want to stay doing something similar to what you've been doing or something similar or related, let's say, if a lot of your values are already being honored by the tasks that you normally have to perform, but you need to shift to a different place where the work environment is better. So it's really helpful to understand core values versus work environment values, because that can give you a sense of how dramatic of a change you might need to make. Now, a quick note before we move to going a little bit deeper with our career model, and then we'll start to close here in just a few moments. You can use AI to help you clarify your values. And here are some of the patterns, the questions that you can ask. Here's the deal. Remember, AI is not always going to be right. It's a computer. And you can ask it for themes, but you're going to have to feed in information about yourself for it to pull it out. You don't want to just go to AI and say, what are some top career values? Because it has no information about you. So if you do use AI, we love it, but make sure you're feeding in information about yourself and then filtering out the output to make sure it really resonates with you and that's accurate. Now, I would invite you, remember, you'll get the slides, to download them and print this out, because each piece can help you make sure that you brainstorm enough ideas, but also narrow down those ideas and ensure that you're looking at fulfillment and everything else that's critical. So we talked about fulfillment a bunch today. That's your values. You can also look at your interests to help you say, okay, what are the tasks that I think I might want to perform? It can help you brainstorm alternative ideas. Here's what we say, though, just by the way. Fulfillment needs to be your core tasks that you perform all day, every day for the most part. Like I'm a career coach or Joe is a lawyer. But Joe and me, for example, we might also have an interest in giving presentations, for example. And that can be something we do as icing on the cake as part of what we want. That's where interests come in. Strengths, we encourage you to identify what your top 5 strengths are. You can find little tools online and assessments. You can interview other people. We have assessments that we use with our clients, but you need to be leveraging your strengths in the next job in order for it to work for you. Not just being successful and actually doing a good job, but also being fulfilled. We then want you to look at how do I want to leverage, if at all, my past experience in education? What are the courses that I enjoyed in college, etc.? We then want you to make sure that you're covering your personality type. For example, if you are more introverted, we don't want you to go try to get a job that requires you to be an extrovert all day. You will be exhausted. So a lot of different personality elements are critical to the right fit. And then finally, work environment can be a make or break. You could be in the perfect job for you, but if you're in the wrong environment, you're going to leave. And then last but not least is the compensation. Compensation is critical, but like we said earlier, to go beyond the paycheck, you can use these other pieces to narrow down your ideas. So some of the things we want you to be noodling on, if you will, what strengths do you want to be leveraging and what strengths you might want to move on from? I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to analyze spreadsheets. How well right now is your career path honoring all of your values and in the right way? And what is the right work environment for you? One of the things that we do want you to look out for, just to be safe when you're identifying your values, is making sure that you're not adopting inherited values or norms from society or family or anything else that don't fit for you. So for example, we've had clients come to us say, well, all of my family has been a doctor or lawyer, and so that's what I did. And it's like, well, let's talk about your values and making sure that it's a fit. So really clarify your true values that make the most sense for you. And this is also why we don't want people necessarily to be AIing values, because they'll just get a list of values maybe that you should have. And we want them to come from inside out, not from outside in those external definitions. Okay. You can do a self-assessment like we talked about today. You can interview other people to get a sense of what they think your values, but also your strengths might be. And then we want you to start to, looking at the bottom 2 elements of this slide, we want you to start to write a new story for yourself about what you want your career to look like, without any shoulds, like, well, I'm supposed to feel this way or supposed to do this or whatever it is, and what you want it to be that's true to yourself, thinking about what's really fulfilling to you, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. There's a couple of other things slide-wise that we'll let you take a look at when you download the slides a little bit later. I wanted to mention just really quickly that we do have boot camps that focus on designing your ideal career. And there's more information here about our upcoming ones on our website. And we don't have those boot camps every single month per se. So if that's a little bit too far out for you as you're starting to align your goals, we do have, and let me go to this really quickly because I wanted to share with you a course that we sell, and it's very, very good because it's step-by-step everything that we've talked about today. You can use the coupon code to get the discount. I will put the link in the chat box as well. But this course is the program that we use for our individual coaching. So if you'd like to do individual coaching with us, of course, we're happy to do that. But if you feel like, hey, I want to do a little bit more on my own, or I need to watch my budget a little bit more, this course follows our process that we use with all of our individual clients. It's really, really great. When you get the slides, you can copy this link and find information there. Now, before we go, I'd love it if you would write down one action step that you will take in the next week, like we talked about at the beginning. There are a couple of suggestions for you there. Please feel free to schedule a consult with me anytime. There's information about that in the chat box at the very top. Remember to take a look at or keep an eye on your email for the recording and slides today. And then your third step, which is what all of our clients get to say after they work with us, is they've defined their dream job and been able to succeed in it and make it happen. I thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. And it looks like we've got one person sharing. I'm going to start to list my career values for their action step. That's a perfect note for us to end on today. Have a great day, everybody. And I hope this was helpful for you.